All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're going to a place that's been a source of fascination and mystery for centuries.
Ooh, sounds intriguing already.
Oh, it is. Get ready for the Oak Island Money Pit,
Oh, yeah, Oak Island. I've heard about this.
off the coast of Nova Scotia.
Right.
A tiny island, this giant mysterious hole of the ground, and centuries of speculation about what could possibly go down there.
So, what are we thinking? Pirate treasure, lost cities, alien artifacts. I'm hooked already.
Well, those are some of the theories we're going to be diving into today. We've got a whole bunch of YouTube videos lined up from channels like Ginger Pale, Next Gen Science.
Oh, wow, those are good ones.
Yeah, even the History Channel itself has weighed in on this. Unexplained Mysteries, and Tilsai 1, Atlantis, and MATS.
Wow, a real mixed bag of perspectives there.
Absolutely. Each one brings a slightly different angle to the mystery, and some are definitely more skeptical than others.
Skepticism is healthy, especially with a legend like this.
It is, but buckle up because this deep dive is about to get twisty.
I'm ready. Where do we even begin with a mystery this big?
Well, we've got to go all the way back to 1795 with a teenager named Daniel McGinnis. Picture this. You're 16 years old, exploring this island,
Okay.
and you stumble upon what to be buried treasure. That's exactly what happened to Daniel when he found this, strange depression in the ground
Oh, wow.
under this old oak tree, right?
So that's where the oak in Oak Island comes from.
Exactly. And naturally, being a curious teenager, he and his friends start digging.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Right. And get this. Every 10 feet, they hit a layer of oak logs. It's almost like someone was intentionally trying to bury something deep, and they wanted to make sure it stayed buried.
Okay, that's definitely strange. Purposeful, like layers of a cake.
Exactly. And hold on, it gets later. They supposedly found coconut fibers in the pit.
Coconut fibers.
Yeah, now that's where things get really weird, because the closest coconut trees are hundreds of miles away.
That's definitely out of place. It's starting to sound less like natural and more like, well, deliberate.
Right. And wait, there's more. Hold on to your hats, because according to the legends, they found a stone tablet with mysterious symbols on it.
A stone tablet. Oh, come on, like an ancient inscription.
Like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie.
It's like someone wanted this to be found.
Right. It's like they're laying out clues, but of course the mystery deepens, because what do those symbols mean?
Okay, so we've got layers, coconut fibers, a stone tablet. Sounds like we're dealing with more than just a random hole in the ground here.
Definitely not random, and that's just the beginning. Over the years, group after group has been drawn to Oak Island, each one hoping to finally strike it rich and solve the mystery of the money pit.
I bet. So who are some of the big players in this treasure hunting saga?
Well, one of the earliest and most notable was the Onslow Company. They were digging back in the early 1800s, and they supposedly dug down 90 feet. And guess what they supposedly found?
The treasure.
Not quite. They supposedly found that stone tablet I mentioned earlier. And according to some stories, it was inscribed with a message something like, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried.
2 million pounds. Now we're talking. That's a king's ransom. No wonder people have been obsessed with this place.
I know, right? But every single attempt to get to the bottom of this pit has been met with one major persistent obstacle: relentless flooding.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about the flooding. That's supposed to be like the big challenge, right?
Oh, it is. I mean, it's almost as if something or someone doesn't want us to get down there.
Okay, now that's just creepy.
Right. It really makes you wonder. Bad luck, or some brilliant booby trap system designed to protect whatever's down there.
It definitely adds to the intrigue, that's for sure. A booby-trapped treasure pit. Sign me up.
Well, some believe there are these elaborate flood tunnels connecting Smith's Cove to the pit.
Flood tunnels?
Yeah, channeling seawater intentionally to stop treasure seekers.
Whoa, that is some next-level engineering.
Right. And sadly, it's cost lives. 6 people have died in pursuit of this elusive Oak Island treasure.
6 people. Wow, that's tragic. It makes you wonder if maybe there's something to that whole curse legend.
It does, doesn't it? Is it just a series of unfortunate events, or is there something more sinister at play?
A curse, booby traps, a mysterious inscription. This is getting better by the minute. So with all these obstacles and tragedies, has anyone actually found anything down there?
Oh, we're getting to that.
Okay, good, because I'm on the edge of my seat here.
But first, let's talk theories.
Yes. Theories are my favorite part. What are we thinking? Pirates, aliens, ancient civilizations. Let's hear it.
Well, one of the most popular theories is, of course, pirates.
I knew it. Pirates and buried treasure. It's a classic combo.
It is. And when you think of pirates, you think about buried Luke, right?
Right. So who's our prime suspect? Blackbeard. Captain Kidd.
Well, Captain Kidd is definitely a popular one. I mean, his hidden treasures have been the stuff of legends for centuries. But, well, if we look at pirates historically, they weren't exactly known for their long-term financial planning.
That's true. Pirates were more about the live fast, die young lifestyle. Spend it while you got it.
Exactly. So while it's a romantic idea, maybe not The most plausible?
Okay, so maybe not Captain Kidd. But what about Blackbeard? Now, he was the ultimate pirate,
Oh, yeah.
boasting about hiding his treasure where only he and the devil could find it. Sounds a lot like Oak Island, doesn't it?
It does, right? But here's the thing. There's actually no solid evidence to suggest that Blackbeard ever sailed anywhere near Oak Island.
Ah, so we're venturing into pure speculation territory here.
A little bit, yeah. We're going to have to dig a little deeper to find some more convincing theories.
All right, so pirates might be a long shot. But what about something a little more mystical? What about the Knights Templar?
Ooh, the Knights Templar.
Yeah. Could they have used Oak Island as a secret hiding place for sacred artifacts?
I like where you're going with this.
I mean, we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, objects of immense religious and historical significance. And the Knights Templar, they were known for their secrecy, their vast network, their connection to the Holy Land. It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, is it?
It's not, and there are some intriguing clues that point in that direction.
Oh, like what?
Well, for one, a lead cross has been found on the island.
A lead cross.
Yeah. Also a Templar coin, and even a crossbow bolt that could potentially be Templar.
Okay, now those are some compelling clues. A Templar connection would definitely explain the lengths someone went to hide whatever's down there.
Right, they were fiercely protective of their secrets and artifacts. So it wouldn't be surprising if they went to extreme measures to conceal them.
This is getting good. So we've got pirates, maybe not so much, but Knights Templar are definitely in the running. Are there any other contenders for what could be buried on Oak Island?
Well, some people have proposed that the pit might just be a natural sinkhole.
A sinkhole, really?
Yeah, like a geological formation that's gradually collected artifacts over time.
So maybe not a deliberate burial site, but just a natural collection point.
Right. But here's the thing, with all these clues hinting at human activity, it's hard to shake the feeling that there's something more deliberate going on here. What do you think?
That's the beauty of the Oak Island money pit, isn't it? It's like a giant question mark. It invites us to speculate, to consider all angles.
Exactly. And there's so much we haven't even touched on yet. The searchers have unearthed some pretty amazing things over the years. Flood tunnels, a booby trap shaft, a hatch leading to nowhere.
Wait, a hatch leading to nowhere. What does that even mean?
I know, right? It's just another piece of the puzzle. And then there are the artifacts. A gold chain, parchment, even a Spanish coin.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Gold, parchment, a Spanish coin. This is starting to sound like a real treasure trove. And you said a gold chain, like a whole chain.
That's what the stories say. And speaking of stories, the list of big names linked to the Oak Island mystery is pretty impressive. Franklin D. Roosevelt, John Wayne.
No way. Like the president and the duke, what were they doing mixed up in this?
They were captivated by the mystery, just like everyone else. It's like the island cast a spell on them.
You know, for all we've talked about, I'm realizing we've barely scratched the surface of this mystery.
And we're just getting started. And that brings us to today, the Legina brothers, from the History Channel series.
Yeah, they're like the current torchbearers for the Oak Island search, right?
Exactly. And they're using some seriously impressive technology in their search. Metal detectors, drilling rigs, high-definition cameras. They're pulling out all the stops.
It's like they're on a mission to finally crack this case wide open. So what have they found? Any breakthroughs?
We'll get into that in a bit, but first, let's play devil's advocate for a moment, shall we? Could this entire Oak Island thing be one elaborate hoax?
A hoax. Come on, are you serious?
Hey, I'm just saying, there's some skeptics out there raising some valid points.
Okay, I'll bite. What kind of hoax are we talking about?
Well, we've got inconsistent accounts, missing artifacts, and let's not forget the potential for natural explanations for that relentless flooding.
Yeah, I guess you can't rule that out.
And remember the island's geology, anhydrate limestone bedrock. This type of rock is prone to water erosion, cavern formation. It could be that we're just looking at natural phenomena being misinterpreted as signs of human activity.
Okay, that's a good point. Natural processes can definitely create some pretty convincing illusions.
Right, and some even suggest that the pit was nothing more than a lime quarry.
A lime quarry? That's a lot less exciting than pirate treasure.
It is, but hey, you can't rule anything out when a mystery's been around for this long.
True enough, but still, all those clues, the artifacts, the flood tunnels, it's hard to believe it's all just a coincidence.
I agree, but that's what makes this so fascinating. It's a puzzle with so many pieces, and we're still trying to figure out how they all fit together.
A puzzle with a 200-year history.
Exactly, and we're going to keep digging for answers.
It's amazing how this one place, this one island, has captured the imagination of so many people for so long.
I know, right? It's like, what is it about Oak Island that draws people in? What keeps them coming back?
Well, for one thing, it's a real-life treasure hunt. I mean, who doesn't love a good treasure hunt?
Right. And the Oak Island mystery, it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle with pieces scattered across time.
Exactly. We've got historical accounts, artifact, geological data, folklore, and even whispers of curses and secret societies.
It's a blend of history, adventure, and intrigue. and people can't resist trying to put all those pieces together.
And you know what's especially interesting? How the Oak Island legend itself has kind of like evolved over time.
Oh, absolutely. Like the early accounts mostly focus on pirate treasure.
Right, pirates and buried loot. It's a classic tale.
It is. But as more information came to light, new theories popped up, adding all these layers of complexity to the story.
Like those Knights Templar we were talking about, that theory didn't really gain traction until much later. It's almost like the mystery itself has grown and changed over the centuries.
It's like a living thing, constantly adapting and evolving. And I think that's part of what keeps people hooked. There's always something new to discover, a new angle to explore.
And let's not forget the embellishments, right?
Oh, the embellishments. I mean, that's part of the fun, right?
It is, but it also makes it tricky to separate fact from fiction.
Totally agree. We have to be careful not to take everything at face value, because some details might have been, well, exaggerated or even completely fabricated over time.
Exactly. And those embellishments can really shape our understanding of the money pit.
Can you give us some examples of that? I'm curious about how these, historical distortions have influenced our perception of the mystery.
Sure. Take, for instance, that inscribed stone tacklet we talked about, the one supposedly found at the 90-foot level, remember?
Oh, yeah, the one that said 40 feet below 2 million pounds are buried.
Right, that one. Well, it turns out the symbols that are commonly associated with it, the ones people often cite as evidence of a coded message, those symbols didn't actually appear in any written accounts until the 1950s.
Wait, really? So they were added later?
It seems so. They were likely a fabrication created for a treasure enthusiast in the late 1800s.
So the inscription that everyone's been talking about for decades, the one that sparked so much excitement and speculation, might not even be real. That's a pretty big revelation.
It is, and it's a stark reminder that we can't always trust those old stories. We have to be critical of the sources, especially when it comes to something as, well, as shrouded in mystery as Oak Island.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what other details might have been embellished or altered over time. Like what else has been subject to this kind of historical, well, distortion?
Well, the descriptions of those oak platforms are another example. The early accounts just mention finding like rotted logs, but later versions describe them as worked oak beams.
Ah, so a subtle shift in language, but a big difference in meaning.
Exactly. Implying a more deliberate, sophisticated construction, it shifts our perception from, a random collection of logs to something purposely engineered.
Yeah, like someone was really trying to make sure whatever they were burying down there stayed buried.
Exactly. And it's not surprising that the legend itself seems to have been influenced by, well, by a desire for a more exciting story.
Totally. People add their own embellishments, their own interpretations, and suddenly the mystery becomes even more enticing. It's a reminder that history is often a blend of fact and fiction.
Precisely. And this tendency to embellish, to add those dramatic flourishes, it's something we see in a lot of treasure legends. The human imagination loves to fill in the gaps, and in doing so, it creates a more compelling narrative. We're drawn to stories with intrigue, with mystery, and sometimes we unconsciously shape those stories to fit our expectations.
We also touched on Oak Island as a breeding ground for folklore earlier. Can you expand on that a bit? What role did folklore play in shaping the Money Pit legend?
Well, back in the 18th and 19th centuries, stories of buried treasure were incredibly popular throughout North America. There were all these tales of pirate loot, lost Spanish gold, even hidden Native American mines. And those stories often had element of secret maps, cryptic clues, even divination.
It was a time when people were really captivated by the idea of finding hidden riches.
Exactly. And that cultural context is crucial to understanding how the Oak Island legend developed. It makes you wonder if the Money Pit is just another one of those stories, fueled by the same hopes and desires.
Right. The thirst for adventure and fortune, the belief that there's something out there, something valuable, just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. So the question is, was the Money Pit a genuine attempt to bury something valuable, or was it a clever way to capitalize on this treasure hunting craze? It's hard to say for certain, but understanding the cultural context is crucial to unraveling this mystery.
You also mentioned money diggers. I'm picturing a group of eccentric individuals with dividing rods and a knack for storytelling. Were they like the early American versions of treasure hunters?
Pretty much. Money diggers were often these charismatic figures who claimed to have supernatural ability to find buried treasure. They'd use things like dowsing, divination, even clairvoyance.
So they were playing on people's superstitions and their belief in the supernatural.
Absolutely. They were masters of persuasion. They knew how to tap into that deep-seated human desire for wealth and adventure.
It's amazing how much people were willing to believe in the possibility of striking it rich. It seems that the allure of wealth and that thrill of the hunt are like timeless human motivations.
They are, and for those who knew how to exploit those hopes and dreams, treasure legends like Oak Island could be incredibly lucrative.
Okay, so how did these money diggers actually operate? Did they have any real success, or was it all just like smoke and mirrors?
Well, they often relied on elaborate rituals and pronouncements of ancient curses.
Ah, so they created a sense of mystery and urgency around their treasure hunts.
Exactly. It was all part of the performance, a way to create this atmosphere of anticipation and awe. And their discoveries, they rarely amounted to anything substantial.
But they were masters at keeping their clients hopeful, keeping them invested.
Precisely. They knew how to string people along, how to keep the dream alive.
It sounds like they were masters of deception.
Oh, yeah, they knew how to manipulate people's greed and their belief in the supernatural. And it makes you wonder if the Oak Island money pit might have been one of their cleverly orchestrated schemes.
Ooh, okay, I like where this is going. So are you saying that maybe, just maybe, the Oak Island money pit might have been, a con job from the very beginning?
It's a possibility we can't ignore, especially when we consider the historical context.
Like what?
Well, remember those dates we were talking about, 1849 and 1861?
Yeah.
Well, those years coincide with like major gold rushes in California and Nova Scotia.
Ah, so the timing is suspicious.
Very. It's like someone saw an opportunity to capitalize on the treasure hunting frenzy that was sweeping through the region. Exploit the hype, make a quick fortune.
Makes sense. I mean, if you're going to create a treasure legend, you want to do it when people are already primed to believe it.
Right. So the possibility that the Oak Island money pit was a scheme designed to separate hopeful investors from their money, it can't be dismissed. Especially when you consider that the area around Oak Island was known for its like limestone deposits, which were quite valuable at the time.
So instead of pirate treasure or Templar gold, we might be looking at the remnants of a 19th century limestone mining operation. That would certainly change our whole perspective on the money pit.
It would. It would turn this tale of adventure and mystery into a story of, well, of entrepreneurial ambition and maybe even deception.
A reminder that sometimes the truth can be much more mundane than we might imagine. But even a simple limestone quarry can hold its share of secrets and historical significance.
It can. It's a reminder that fascinating stories can be found in the most unexpected places.
It's incredible to think about the different interpretations of this one site, from pirates to Templars to 19th century con men. It makes you wonder what other secrets Oak Island might be hiding.
It does, doesn't it? And as we delve deeper into this mystery, it's important to remain open to all possibilities, but also to ground our analysis in evidence, critical thinking.
Well said. Okay, so we've explored the history, the folklore, the potential for a hoax, but what about the physical evidence? What have people actually found on Oak Island over the years?
That's where things get even more intriguing. The list of, shall we say, alleged artifacts is as diverse as the theories themselves. But there's a catch. Verifying their authenticity can be a real challenge.
Don't leave us hanging. What about that gold chain and the parchment we talked about earlier? Surely those are signs of something valuable hidden deep within the money pit.
Well, the gold chain is said to have been recovered in the 1860s,
Okay.
brought up by an augur.
An auger?
Yeah, like a tool used to probe the depths of the pit. But the chain itself is long gone, and all we have are like secondhand accounts of its discovery. Without the actual object, it's impossible to determine its origin or, significance.
So touchy. Like every time we get close to something concrete, it slips away. Like the island itself is guarding its secrets.
It does feel that way sometimes, doesn't it? And the parchment fragment is equally enigmatic, a tiny piece supposedly bearing the letters VI, brought up by that same augur in 1861. Some claim it was later analyzed and dated to like the 14th century, potentially linking it to the Knights Templar. But like the gold chain, the parchment itself has vanished.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Exactly, and the lack of physical evidence is one of the most frustrating aspects of this whole mystery.
It fuels all this endless speculation, but it makes it incredibly difficult to draw any definitive conclusions.
It does, but even without the treasure itself, the artifacts that have been recovered can still tell us a story. They offer these glimpses into the past, hints about the people who might have been on Oak Island and the activities they might have been engaged in.
It's like we're playing detective.
Yes, piecing together these fragments of information, trying to create a coherent narrative.
But with so many missing pieces, it's hard to know if we're getting the full picture.
It is, but that's the challenge, isn't it? To make sense of what we have, to see the connections, to follow the trail wherever it leads.
So let's talk about some of the, specific items that have been found. What are some of the more intriguing discoveries, the ones that really stand out as potential clues?
Well, aside from the gold chain and the parchment, there have been other notable finds. In the 1960s, Robert Dunfield, he was another treasure hunter who used heavy machinery to excavate the money pit.
Okay.
He claimed to have found a layer of, you guessed it, coconut fibers at a depth of 140 feet.
Wait, more coconut fibers. Didn't Daniel McGinnis find those too?
He did.
There's no way that's a coincidence.
It's hard to ignore, isn't it? Coconut fibers found on multiple occasions at different depths, it definitely suggests a pattern.
What could you mean?
Well, coconut fibers were often used as ship dunnage, like packing material.
Right.
So their presence could suggest, a maritime connection. Perhaps a ship was involved in transporting whatever might be hidden in the money pit.
Or maybe the fibers themselves are part of, some elaborate booby trap system. It's a tantalizing clue, but without further context, it's hard to say for sure what it means.
You're right, the possibilities are endless. Every new discovery opens up a whole new avenue of speculation.
But as you said earlier, we have to be careful not to get carried away, ground our theories in evidence and logic.
Absolutely. The coconut fibers are just one piece of this complex puzzle. We have to consider all the evidence before we can jump to conclusions.
So we've talked about the theories, the evidence, the challenges of separating fact from fiction. But there's one aspect of this mystery we haven't really delved into yet. The geology of Oak Island itself.
Ah, yes, the geology. Remember all that talk about anhydrite limestone and sinkholes?
Oh yeah? That's where things get really interesting, geologically speaking.
It is, and I think it's where the skeptics might have a point. Could it be that the money pit is more of a natural phenomenon than, some grand human-made marvel?
Okay, so the geology of Oak Island. We've talked about anhydrite limestone, sinkholes, and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, nature has been the architect of this whole Oak Island mystery. What do you think?
Well, it's definitely something we can't ignore. The island's geology plays a huge role in, understanding why the money pit behaves the way it does.
All right, so break it down for us. What's so special about Oak Island's geology?
Okay, so imagine layers, right? Layers of sand, gravel, clay, all deposited by glaciers thousands of years ago. That's what we call glacial till, and it basically forms the foundation of the island.
Okay, so we're talking about a very specific type of terrain.
We are, and this type of terrain, it's inherently unstable, prone to shifting and settling over time.
So you're saying that the ground itself could be moving, changing, playing tricks on all those treasure hunters.
Exactly. The money pit, it might be collapsing, changing shape, all due to natural causes. It's like the island is, it's like it's alive, constantly reshaping itself.
That's a pretty wild thought. So we've got this unstable foundation. What else?
Then we have the anhydrite limestone bedrock. Remember that?
Oh yeah, we've talked about that a lot.
Well, that's a crucial piece of this puzzle. Anhydrite limestone, it's very susceptible to water erosion.
Okay.
So over time, it dissolves, creating these voids and caverns beneath the surface.
So those flood tunnels we keep hearing about, it could be natural formations, not some elaborate booby trap.
Exactly. The flooding might not be the result of some ingenious engineering, but just, natural groundwater flows or even the ocean seeding in through those limestone caverns.
It's like the island has this natural plumbing system that's working against the treasure hunters.
A very persistent plumbing system. And we also have to consider the island's elevation.
Elevation.
Yeah. Oak Island is pretty low-lying, which makes it vulnerable to tidal influences. So the money pit, it's almost like a giant drain pulling in seawater through all those underground channels.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But what about those reports of, the water level in the money pit rising and falling with the tides? Doesn't that point to a more deliberate connection?
It does, but that connection might be more straightforward than we think.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. Oak Island is a small island, right?
Right.
The money pit is relatively close to the shoreline, and the water table is naturally influenced by tidal fluctuations.
So those rising and falling water levels, it's just the natural ebb and flow of the tides.
Could be. No need for elaborate flood tunnels or booby traps.
Wow. It's almost like the simplest explanation is the one that's been overlooked all these years.
It happens. We tend to, we want to attribute things to human ingenuity, especially when it comes to mysteries.
Especially mysteries involving treasure.
Exactly. But sometimes the answer is right there in the natural world. The forces that have been shaping our planet, for much longer than we've been around.
So if that's the case, if their flooding is mostly natural, what about all those attempts to pump out the water? Weren't some of those efforts successful, at least for a while?
Some were, but they were fighting a losing battle. I mean, the sheer volume of water, right, seeping in through the porous bedrock.
Yeah,
It was just too much to overcome, like trying to empty a bathtub with a teaspoon while the faucet is still running.
a perfect analogy. So even with all our technology and our determination, we're still up against nature. And nature usually wins.
In this case, it seems that way. The Oak Island Money Pit, it really highlights that power of nature, those forces that we can't control.
It's both humbling and inspiring at the same time. So where does that leave us? Is there any hope for those who still dream of finding the Oak Island treasure? Or should we just accept that the island is one?
The future of Oak Island, it's still a mystery, isn't it? I mean, the Legina brothers, they're out there, and they've shown incredible persistence.
They have, and they've uncovered a lot of valuable information. Maybe with new advancements in technology, who knows what they'll find.
Exactly. So I think there's always hope, always that possibility of a breakthrough.
It's a testament to the power of human curiosity. We're driven to explore, to uncover those hidden truths, and that's what makes the Oak Island Money Pit so compelling even after all these centuries. It's a story about human ambition, our fascination with the unknown, and those mysteries that still lie hidden in our world.
Well said. And even if we never find the treasure, the journey itself has been incredible. We've learned so much about history, geology, folklore.
Exactly, and isn't that what a deep dive is all about? Exploring those uncharted territories, expanding our understanding of the world around us.
Absolutely. And who knows what other histories are out there waiting to be discovered.
That's a great point. And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions. You never know what you might find.
Until next time.